Have you heard of the Birkin? It is a handbag from the luxury designer Hermes, which retails anywhere from $10,000 all the way up to $300,000. That is right, there are people walking around with purses that cost more than some houses. The Birkin is thought to be one of the most exclusive designer items one can get their hands on. And that's because even if you have the money to be able to afford this outrageously priced handbag, that doesn't mean Hermes will be willing to sell you one. Before Hermes will even let you look at a Birkin in store, you have to have a lengthy purchasing history at Hermes and also be able to prove that you are worthy of carrying such an exclusive item. But is the price of a Birkin really worth it? Some people could argue that they're made with really high quality materials and that they're made by highly trained professionals who have had to work at Hermes for at least 5 years making other Hermes goods before they're even allowed to work on a Birkin. But at the end of the day, does that really make it worth over $10,000 and in some case upwards of $300,000? For the bag itself, the hefty price tag does not come from the high quality materials used or even the time and skilled workmanship that went into creating the bag, but instead that hefty price tag comes from the brand name Hermes and the status symbol it is to own a Birkin. Most of the time, when it comes to luxury designer goods, while the products are typically good quality, that alone is not what warrants the super high price tags we typically see. But what exactly does warrant those high prices then? The brand name and the status people associate with owning luxury designer goods is what gives brands this power to be able to charge so much for their products. Money, status, and power are all things that everybody to a certain extent aspires to have. We want to have the money to be able to buy the things we desire, but we also want to have the status and the power that makes people respect us. And even when a lot of us don't necessarily have money, status, or power, a lot of us still want to be perceived as having those things. And one way a lot of people try to be perceived as having money, status, and power is by trying to show off flashy, expensive designer goods. These luxury designer goods are typically very expensive, and therefore by being able to buy and own luxury designer goods, it makes you look like you have wealth. And to a lot of people, having wealth looks like you have a higher status. Although realistically, a lot of the people who do want designer goods are not necessarily wealthy, and they potentially had to save up their money over the course of a long period of time to be able to save up for their expensive luxury item, the Chanel bag or the Gucci shoes or whatever it is that they have their eyes on. Many people want to look rich and look like they have a higher status, and therefore try to dress in ways that they think people who are wealthy and have a higher power or status dress. But in reality, the true wealthy and powerful people of the world don't really dress in flashy designer goods. When we look at the actual richest people on earth, their fashion tends to be much more low-key than wearing a full dripped out designer outfit. They know they don't have to prove anything with their clothing choices. So instead of focusing on truly wealthy customers, a lot of these luxury designer brands actually like to focus their attention on lower to middle class individuals who want to look like they are more wealthy than they really are. Sometimes these people do feel that they have something to prove and that flashy designer bag or shoes or sunglasses is what they need to help show off their wealth to the world. When in reality, maybe they had to save up for that item for a couple of months or maybe even a couple of years. Now, of course, there are still plenty of people who have money and can be considered to be wealthy who still shop at these luxury designer brands. They have all this money and they're gonna use it to buy the full head to toe designer dripped out outfit so that you know they have money. They are not here to hide it. That being said, however, a lot of these wealthy people who do wear designer brands, while being quite wealthy, are not exactly the top of the top when it comes to the most extreme wealth and power, and thus maybe still feel the need to prove their wealth and status with their fashion and clothing and accessories. We don't exactly see Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and whoever blinged out in like their Gucci outfits and like, you know, their fancy shoes and stuff. Typically, when we're actually looking at the world's most wealthy people, they dress very casually, very simple almost. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure their clothing is still quite expensive, but it's not flashy expensive. Like, they don't care that you know that they're wearing designer or not, you know? I think that status being associated with designer brands is a huge reason that we see a lot of fake designer goods out there. People want to look like they have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on their shoes or on their purse. But if they can't actually afford to pay that, maybe they'll pay $20 or $30 for the cheap knockoff version of that item. One way that some designer brands do try to get more business by people with a higher level of wealth is by trying to create a false sense of exclusivity with their products. We see this a lot with a brand like Hermes, which I mentioned earlier. Hermes sells 2 or 3 handbags, depending on the country you're in, that are considered to be quota bags. Now, a quota bag is a handbag that you are only allowed to purchase 2 of a year, and even if you have the money to purchase this quota bag, it does not mean that Hermes will be willing to sell it to you. The Birkin, the Kelly, and in some countries the Constance are all bags that Hermes has to think you are worthy enough of being able to buy. To even be deemed worthy of getting the opportunity of purchasing one of these bags directly from Hermes, you have to have a very lengthy purchasing history at Hermes, spending tens of thousands of dollars on other Hermes products. You have to display knowledge on the brand and even know exactly what you're looking for in terms of a quota bag, like what kind of leathers you want or what the names of the colors you want. Having these bags be so exclusive, even beyond their already so ridiculously high price tags, is one way that Hermes is making it known that this is a bag meant to signify status. Of course, there are other ways to get your hands on these bags where you don't have to go through this whole process at Hermes. A lot of people end up going to resellers where you don't have to have a lengthy purchase history or display any sort of knowledge on the brand. You just have to have the money and you can buy the bag. So a lot of people do it that way, but I think a lot of people do want to go through the whole process at Hermes and get that experience of being taken into a private room and being given champagne and having the sales associate take the bag out of the box while wearing gloves. And it's just a very exclusive experience that I think a lot of people really want to have because they want that feeling of, ooh, I'm so fancy, I'm worthy enough of buying a Birkin, you know? I mentioned earlier that a lot of these products are being sold for such high prices purely because of the brand name and the status associated with them. But how much do these products actually cost to produce? How much of a profit are these brands making by selling these products? Luca Solca, an equity analyst, estimates that the cost of production for a basic Birkin is only around $800. Selling a bag for $10,000 when it only costs you $800 to actually make it means they are making a profit of 1,150%. Another example we can use for this is the luxury designer brand Cartier, who is most well known for their jewelry. One of their most popular items is called the Love Bracelet, and it is made out of gold. Now, if we take a look at how heavy the Love Bracelet is, we can go ahead and estimate exactly how much gold was made in the production, and therefore estimate how much it actually cost them to make a love bracelet.
Okay, let's do another episode of guess how much this costs to make. And this love bracelet in the US goes for $6,900 pre-tax. And this is the classic version of the bracelet. It's made with 18 karat solid gold. The classic love bracelet weighs between 30 to 38 grams, depending on the size of it. 1 gram of 18 karat gold currently costs around $48 in the US at the moment. Cartier love bracelet weighs around 30 to 38 grams, which means just the cost of gold would cost Cartier around $1,400 to $1,800. Using the Cartier love bracelet as inspiration, we could create something that's very similar for around $2,500. So if you were the customer, which one would you choose?
This is really just another example about how these luxury designer brands are making thousands and thousands of dollars of profit by selling a single item. Designer brands are known to cause a lot of waste. In fact, clothing production in general is actually one of the biggest causes of waste on our planet. Now, of course, that is not all due to luxury designer brands, as that is a much more smaller niche area of the clothing industry. However, designer brands are definitely not exactly helping that cause.
On a bitterly chilly night, a warm coat could make a big difference. So the fact that more than a dozen high-end winter jackets and blankets were cut up and thrown down on the sidewalk as trash has homeless advocates like Jasmine Sanchez fuming.
It could be legal, but it violates the principle of kindness.
Sanchez says these pictures of the Eddie Bauer winter gear discarded outside the Fifth Avenue store were taken Sunday night. She wants to know why the store would ruin the men's merchandise so it couldn't be worn when it could have done so much good.
It's well known that a lot of designer brands, while trying to get rid of old stock, instead of either donating or trying to sell items at a lower cost, will instead just destroy the item and throw it away. They will make it completely unusable and toss it in a dumpster. This is a tactic that a lot of these designer brands use to make sure that their brand name isn't devalued. And a lot of their eyes, having their items being sold at a lower price or being donated lowers their value, which I think really just makes it obvious that these items really truly cannot be worth that much if the brand name value is worth more to them than the actual cost of the material item. My personal take is that I don't think designer goods are usually ever worth their high price tags. Most of the time, they really are just selling you the brand name, the appearance of status, and the appearance of wealth, more so than they are really selling you a really good quality product. If you really just want a high quality product, there are way better options out there than going to a place like Versace and Gucci and Fendi and all these places. There are places out there that are selling a good product instead of trying to sell you the brand name. Now, of course, with all of this being said, I do have to say that for a lot of people, buying these luxury designer goods is a really positive experience and something that can make people happy. And if you're one of these people who you really enjoy the process of getting a luxury designer good and you really appreciate it for what it is, live your best life and go spend that money at these luxury designer stores. If you want it, you want to save your money up, you do you. At the end of the day, I do not have any luxury designer goods, but at the same time, I also can't say I will never buy any if I'm ever in a position where I can afford them, but right now, I'm just not really interested. Let me know how you feel about this topic in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!